Okay, welcome back to video 3. Start my timer. All right, where we're at is first cause substance being consciousness, and then all the fruits of that or the effects of that also were our consciousness. Okay, and then he restates the same thing: higher and lower variation. Higher or lower, I don't think is defined in this book. So that's something to keep in mind for later. He does say ascending to a higher state of consciousness, like is associated with being more normal, but that's neither here nor there for now. I think I'm gonna change my screen. Okay, cool. Okay, consequently, the products of your own consciousness. Oh, okay. So he says in this next sentence, consequently, what appears to you as the material world are really only the products of your own consciousness. So this is a couple leaps, but your own consciousness is I am, and I am is the foundation of everything on which everything is built. So just in case you're confused on that, just that's what it means. Okay, nature then, or the external world. So the external world, he's just saying something that isn't in the external world. Excuse me. Something that is in the external world. So even nature, as a thing or external to your mind, must be rejected. So there's an idea that's important here. Where am I in the PowerPoint? Okay, cool. You and your world are one. Okay. All right. So what was I? You and your world are one. Yeah. Okay. We're same spot. Okay. So I should have wrote this down in my PowerPoint, but this is a very important sentence. Anything external to your mind, pretty much, has to be rejected. You're saying that you're connected. You are your consciousness, your mind is connected to the entire world because of all the things that I just said a couple seconds ago. Okay, you and your world are one. All right. Yep. Okay, therefore you must, okay, yeah, it's not separately. So, I mean, let's talk about that really quick. You and your environment cannot be regarded as existing separately. So that means you're tied in with everything. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna wax philosophical here. So he talked about your environment cannot be regarded as existing separately. So based on your concept of yourself, the external world conforms to that assumption. I mean, what level of, if that is true, to the degree that he says it is, then what level of self-awareness do you have to have in order to make sure that you can do crazy things? Like what are the rules? Why don't you want to live in a manga world or some show? Now that the reality shifters talk about that all the time. But if you and your environment cannot be regarded as existing separately from your mind, your mind cannot be separate from your environment, then I mean, maybe that's just not possible for humans to control and make their world a fantasy world, because there's always the time issue. It takes a certain amount of time for you to get really wealthy or something like that. There's rules. I don't know. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna drink some water. All right. Therefore, you must turn from the objective to the subjective if you want to know the phenomena of life. Oh, I need to hide this. Loading media controls. All right. Okay. How to use this knowledge to realize there's only one principle, your consciousness. Yep, same thing. It says over and over again. The world moves with, okay, no motive. It's under the necessity. Okay, so the world moves under the necessity of whatever your consciousness is, what you're aware of. Arrangement of your mind. Okay, same thing. Different arrangements of the same mind. Okay, and then he talks about magnetism here. So if you want to read through the bit about magnetism here, it's just giving an example of how to think about the law of assumption. Basically, the law of assumption always is. And then, so like the law of magnetism, but in the example, the electrons or molecules or whatever are arranged in a certain way, and that makes it magnetized. But if I'm not mistaken, he uses the example of arranging, like consciousness arranging itself to what you think or what you're aware of. So that's a little bit different from the metaphor of the, of the law of magnetism, but whatever. Okay, rearrangement of the particles. Okay, magnetism. Yep. All right. Health, wealth, beauty are not created. Ooh, where am I on my PowerPoint? Okay, that's fine. Yep. Okay. Reactions. Right. Cool. Concept of self. That's interesting. Okay, right here. Right here. So, what you consent to can only be discovered by an uncritical observation of your reactions to life. Now, you track your reactions by being mindful of what you think. So if you want to be rich, but you're worried about bills or something, it's not part of the plan. It is, oh no, I have to deal with this right now. Well, if your reaction is like that, then you'll know, that you are not being aware, you're not living in the end of being rich or not having money problems or whatever. Okay. The importance of this in your daily life should not be immediately apparent. Okay, so yeah, with this last paragraph, we just start. If you don't have a mindfulness practice, you gotta start one. You gotta know what you think of the things, how you think about the things in your life, because if you're not aware of them, you can't change them. So, okay, chapter 3. Are we? Yeah, mindfulness. Just yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I think so. At the very end of this book, I'm just going to go through all the chapters and give my summaries on them. But I also put some summaries in this that you'll see after each chapter. It's not consistent. I'm sorry about it. Okay, power of assumption. All right, man's chief delusion. Okay, other notes. Yep. Okay. So yeah, up here he's just said the same things. Man's consciousness is all that he believes is true and consents to. Okay, falls, yeah, be transformed. So that should be plain. It should be apparent, or at least you can understand his thought process, in that consciousness is the foundation. You are God, or I am. There's an awareness that is God and is I am, and is consciousness, and arranges everything according to what? No, your external world is arranged according to what you believe is true. Okay, be transformed. Yep. Oh, this is. Okay. He introduces the beginning with an intense burning desire to be transformed. This should be natural. You should, if you want to change something in your life, you don't do something unless you want to. And so this is like, of course, it starts with an intense burning desire. Okay, yeah, concept of self. You're not changing the external world. You're changing yourself and what you believe and what you consent to as true. But in doing that, you have to change your concept of self first. You have to, yeah, we'll go into that. Okay, assuming the wish, feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is, I don't think I put this in my notes. Assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is a tool. You, as long as Neville has just spent 2 chapters laying down the foundational facts. And just now, he has introduced the idea of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is just a method to change your concept of self. But it's just a method, okay? It is one path that you can do to change your concept of self, to change your reality, to change your experiences, okay? Yeah, I had a little epiphany just now about that. But whenever Neville says to do anything or to not do anything, I want you to put it in context and always hold them up to the light of what he himself said the foundational facts are. And so far in this book, as well as in The Feeling is the Secret, there were some foundational facts that he laid down. But in this book, he introduced what is consciousness, how is it made, how, what makes the world around us, what drives the events of the world around us. And he laid all those foundational facts, but you have to start there. You have to start with the foundational facts. You can't just, oh, well, I'm gonna do this action, because the action has to be based on a belief. So you have to have the foundational beliefs in order to have the action be as effective as it can be. That is my opinion. It's my very, very strong opinion that this, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, is a tool. It's not the only way to change your environment, according to what Neville himself says. All right, moving on. Desiring to be. Okay, so in explaining the tool in greater detail, by desiring to be other than what you are, so changing concept of self, which is adhering to the foundational facts, you can create the person that you want to be and assume that you're that person. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, this assumption, if the assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, it goes into dominant feeling later on in the book. But if that assumption of you being who you want to be already, before you notice it with your senses, then he says the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. Okay. The ideal you hope to achieve is always ready for incarnation, but unless you yourself offered human parentage. Okay. I don't know why I wrote that down, but of course, this lines up with what he's said before. He also says a higher state right here. If you want to express a higher state means what you want. So you decide what is by you deciding what you want, you are that is automatically a higher state, is what I think this means. Okay, breathing breath. Okay, and he introduces mental and spiritual knowledge. Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm just going to summarize what he said here. You know a thing mentally by looking at it from or by thinking of it, and that's what he says that desire is. You say, I want this. The desire is first, and it's thinking of, okay? Whereas spiritual knowledge, and I don't know where he gets these terms from, but he says that these two are different, mental and spiritual knowledge. I don't know what his definition of spiritual is, because so far he hasn't mentioned spirit or spirituality. He's just said that the foundational facts. You are consciousness. Consciousness makes the world according to your assumptions and concept of self. So, don't know. Okay, anything else about that? No. Where are we? Okay. You must be the thing itself. Okay, yeah, change your concept of self and not merely talk about it or look at it. Okay, so he's saying something else not to do. Or no, yeah. So he says to not do something, and remember what I recommended when Neville says to not do something or do something. Always look at it in the light of the foundational facts. So if you live by the foundational facts, then you would not. It would merely talking about it or looking at it would not enter your mind. But regardless, this is something to watch out for, something to be mindful of as you wait for your assumption to manifest in your life. Okay, you must be like the moth. Yeah, so this is just a helpful metaphor. If you understand the foundational facts, then you don't need to think about this. Okay. Okay, this is important, and I think it's a little bit different. So the process of changing concept of self inherently has the destruction of the former self. So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. There might be things in your life that give you comfort but that keep you in your past state. And you have to, and change is not comfortable inherently. So get ready for that. It's I've personally gone through a lot of changes, and I'm the better for it, but going through it is not fun. I'm sure you can relate. Okay. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is, yet conscious of being what you want to be. New and greater or higher concept of self. You must assume that you are already what you want to be and live by faith in this assumption and confidence. Okay, so he introduces another idea, which is being confident or living as if your new concept of self is a real thing, which should be something that you do if you believe that you create reality with your concept of self. But again, something to be mindful of, that you need to persist in and be confident in it. Okay, fidelity. This is what wholeness, and he says that integrity means sticking to what you assume. Submission of the whole self to feeling. Okay, so he's just strengthening what he's said before. New and greater concept of self doesn't come by natural evolutionary process, but by assuming the wish fulfilled, or by assuming whatever you want to be. We have gone over a lot of extrapolations from the foundations of what Neville has laid down in the first two chapters. So I think that there's going to be a lot more of that in the rest of the book, but just always keep in mind, because I'm going to be keeping in mind as well, and I'm going to be reminding you every time about the foundational facts. That's like the most important thing. Don't look at the branches of the tree. Pay attention to where the branches came from and what makes them stand up. We'll see if I come up with any more metaphors. Yeah, okay, so that is it. We will go over, we might finish chapter 3 in the next video. I don't know. Anyway, see you guys later.